I'm going to show you how to create assemblies based on the databases that you've already created. First, you need to learn how to bring in a database. I showed you that last week when I was there, but let me go over it again. First thing you're going to need is to be in a drawing. So I'm just going to bring something up so that we have it. So if you remember correctly, once you open your Planswift, if it doesn't already come up to a job, or even if it does, you come over to home, you open up your box, and you pick wherever you're going to be at. Now, mine are in my Planswift files. Yours may be in local, or you may have a different place to put them. You pick the one that you want to open, and then you open that job, and then you wait for it to come up. Once you have that job in, now you can start to create. Now you can actually start to bring in your databases. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go over to lists. Over in lists, you'll see in this dialog box on this side here that yours may have nothing in there. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take and click on new. And over here, you're going to decide what you want. And you want a list from an MS Access file tables. So you click on that and you hit next. You select your database from wherever you've put it. And mine are here. Yours will be in different places. I'm going to bring one in that I did a long time ago, this one here, so it'll have it. But you click on the one that you want. You make sure it's an older, it's got to be an older one. So it's got to have been created as a 2000 or earlier database. So it's got the MDB extension on it. And then you hit open. Now what that does is this now tells you where it's at and where they're pulling it from. You just hit next and it brought it in. Now, one of the things that you're going to find is that the first time you bring it in, this part here will show nothing there. And then you have to click on that. You have to click on the plus and minus side, and then it will bring it up. And once you've done the new, you do the list from MS Access, you hit next, you locate it, find out where they are, you click on it, you open it, you hit next again, and it'll bring it in. If you click on it, nothing will be there. If you refresh it, it will usually bring that in. The other thing is sometimes it won't do that because maybe you've had it open for a long time, or maybe you have a lot of things going on. Sometimes you actually have to shut Planswift down and bring it back up. It's just something that happens. There's nothing that we can do about it. It depends on the computer you're dealing with. Now that we have the database that we want in there, so you've chosen one, you've brought it in, you've added it to your lists, and now you can see these are your databases. As you can see, if you click one time on it, it should bring up stuff in here. And these ones, mine have specific information, and yours may have slightly different information in it, depending on how you wanted to build yours. So the thing after that is now we go back to the home. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create, let's say we want to create a wall, and we want to add stuff to it. The first thing we do is we click on a linear, that tool right there. You open it up and you say 2 by 6 by 8 foot exterior wall. The reason you do that is because you want to know when you go to choose it from over here, you want to know you're choosing the 2 by 6 by 8 foot exterior wall, the wall that's going to work for what you're doing. And we're going to create this one a little different than normal. We don't have to put it in a folder. We don't have to do anything like that. All we're going to do is hit OK and create a line. You create a line, you right click and hit stop. Now that's done. So now we've created that wall from the linear, named it, and created a line. Next, we go over to estimating, And we should find that right here. So the rest of this would have been, let's just say, all of this would have been empty. So from here, now we want to tell it what we want it to find. The first thing we want to do is double click on it and go to advanced. Advanced is where you do all of your work. So the description on this wall, if you want to add a description, that's fine. This part does not matter. All we're doing is using it to bring in pieces. Your item number, again, doesn't matter because we're just using it to bring in pieces. We're going to go down and we're going to look at a couple of things. We want certain things to show on that. So this is what you saw when you brought it up. This is called the form. Advanced is where you do all your work. We want certain things to show up so that we can change it. So maybe that's a 2x6 exterior wall. We want to be able to tell it what height we want. We would click that so that we can put in the height. Now, on an exterior wall for an 8-foot wall, I put in a 9-foot height so that it will correctly, or that it will add the extra waste for sheathing. The width, the depth, you don't really need it. You can do this as just a line. The only other thing that we really need in this one is our location, because the location, that's where we're going to tell it where this wall sits. First floor, second floor, what have you. We go back to form and we see that it's got your name, your wall height that you can change, and a location that you can put in here. Now, by me leaving it blank here, by me leaving location blank here, that allows me to add things. When I type something here, if I want to come back to it on another one, it will have that as the drop down. So like right now, this has basement and garage because that was put in these older ones. Generally, it would have nothing because there's nothing over here. So now that you have that done, you can just hit OK. So now that's created our beginning part. That's created the part that tells us what we want for our assembly. Now what we have to do is we have to tell it what we want it to figure out while we're in there. So since we're going to do an exterior wall, the very first thing that we want to do is we want to come up here and the new part, you click on the arrow and you click on material. So now you have, this comes up as your, this is your input or form. Form is the easy way to look at it. Whoops. Form, sorry about that. Form is an easy way to look at it. Input is another way to look at it. So you have form and input. Those are two that you're just going to see what you can input. Advanced is where you put everything in. That's where all your stuff is done again. So let's put on this one here. This is going to be your normal. We're going to put in plates. Plates are going to be 16 foot with your linear foot times 3. So this one's going to be a very easy one, except now we're going to go in your plates. We're going to pull it from a database. So you might have a lumber database. You'll double click. So let me show you that again. So you're going to come over to this description. You'll inside of that dialog box, you'll double click on it. It's going to come up with this dialog box here. You leave it as this, and you're going to keep all of this the same. You're going to go over here to simple list, and you're going to say, I want to pull from my list. And that tells it that place over here where the list, what we put in, that tells it that's where I want you to start looking for places I can pull information. Down here, this is going to be the name of the list you pull from. I'm going to use my lumber list. You're going to have a different list that you're going to pull from. Wherever that list is, or whatever that list is where you're going to get it. I'm going to pull from SPF lumber. So if you looked, you came to the lists, you came down to where your database was. So your database was the lumber. Well, mine was lumber. Yours was something else. If it had a plus, which it should, you click on that plus and you pick the list that comes from underneath it. So if your lumber list is broken into engineered lumber, finished lumber, framing, plywood, SPF, and treated like mine is, you click the one that's going to represent the plates that you did, which mine would be SPF lumber. Over here, it's going to tell you these are the available fields that you have. Yours may be completely different from this, and that's okay. I have mine set up a specific way. I like my item number and my description brought in. You may have things like description. That's going to be a big one. You're going to need that one. You're going to have things like cost each, unit of material or quantity or however it's done, and cost each, and maybe a cost code. So you'll double click on all the fields that you want shown up here. The first field that you double click on is going to be the one, the way it's set here. So however you click on these is how it brings it in here. That's how it's going to show when it brings it up. So if you put description first, it's going to tell you what that is. And then all your other information will go in a string along the line. You'll see that in a minute. So I'm only going to bring in 2 pieces because that's all I need. And that's all I have on here. I don't have things like my cost or anything like that. Yours probably does. Now I want my columns to go to an auto width. In other words, whatever's in there, that column is going to go to the biggest one as I bring them in. And then I also want to show a search, which that way, if I have a longer database, I can search for what I want and it'll allow me. My result column, that is, so remember we came to description. We're doing this all under description. I want my results column to be description. Everything else that's in there, I just highlight it, copy it, highlight it, copy it, come down here and paste it. So all the other fields are going to go in here. Once I have all that done, I'm going to hit OK. Now, what that does is that allows me to come over here, click on this. As you can see, you have that. I can now search for, let's say, 2x6, and it'll bring all of my 2x6, anything up with 2x6 in it. And I want my 16s. So that brings that in, and it brought my item number in. Yours might bring a cost each in. It might bring in a cost code in, and any other information that we have that's needed. So now that I know that, I also want this to show the location. Wherever I put that wall, I want these pieces to, I want to know that's where I got where I'm putting these pieces. The only thing I do is a bracket, 2 dots, and a close bracket. And that what that does is that will show over here whatever I decided to use. None of that needs to be shown. Now up here, you can say description, you want that to show, because I'll show you why later. But for right now, oh, and then the next thing that we want to do is we want to figure out how do we do quantity. Now remember, we haven't done anything with this yet. So the easiest thing that we can do, so there's your form right now. Right now, you go ahead and hit OK. Let it sit. You make sure that's highlighted. Come up to this part right here. It's the 4 arrows. Click on your right arrow. And now what that does is that moves it so that it's associated to this wall. Now, as you notice, nothing's in here yet. And we did that on purpose because we haven't done anything with that yet. So we bring it back up and open it. And we come over here to quantity. Now our quantity for plates is our linear foot times 3 divided by 16. It's simple. And if you want to add waste, this is where you do it. But you start off with your brackets. We're telling this to look up the quantity of the item it's associated to. So whatever the quantity that is, that's what the brackets and double dots mean. That's the quantity you want. So if I were to do this right now, that's how many feet I have. I want to multiply that by 3. So now, as you can see, every time I click off of there, it does the math for me. Now, I want to take that and I want to wrap this in parentheses because I want that to be the very first thing that it does. So you come up to these marks, you hit that button and you do that, and whatever's showing is going to wrap it in parentheses. If you want to add a parenthesis, you can do it with the keyboard, or you can move your mouse and put your cursor there and add one at a time that way. My next step is, now this is where if I wanted to add any waste, so let's say I want to add 10% of waste, I can multiply that times 1.1. And as you can see now, it's brought up that number. Now, I'm also going to want that in parentheses because that's my next step. The last part is I want to divide that by 16 to equal how many pieces I want. But if you notice, it gives me an odd number. So the only way to deal with that is by going to round up. Now you can round down if you know that you don't need that many. Generally, that's not used. Generally, you would round up. And if you click off it, you'll see it puts it in 7. Now over here, this is the input units. I wanted to show me all of this, but I want to know that that is each. So I know that that's 7 each of these. That way, anybody who comes in and looks at this should be able to see that I'm asking for 7 2x6 16s, plain and simple. That's how that one works. So that's your first one. So your plates right now, this says that, look, you got 32.41 feet. You're telling me that you have 16-foot plates from that database, and you're going to need 7 of them. So if you had a cost associated, if you had any of that, it would give you that information right here. Now, if I'm going to keep using my linear, the best thing that I can do is just highlight it, copy it, highlight the assembly start, and paste as a sub item. And it brings it right down in there. Now I can go on here, I can hit advanced, and I can say, I'm going to use studs now. Now, the nice part about this one is it's using the same database. So because they both pull from the SPF lumber, I'm using the same database. So I could go back to 2x6, type that in, and you see, let's see, this was a 8-foot wall. So I probably want my 92 5/8 cut, but this is wrong. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to start over again with the formula by telling it I still want to use your linear. You guys said that you multiplied it by 1. So we do it times 1. And you do that to bring it in. Now let's say that you wanted to add a slight amount for margin, times 1.1, 10% for waste. So now it's telling you that, hey, look, you're telling me that you want to multiply the linear foot by 1, and then you want to add 10% waste. We all know how that works. But now I want to round it up because I don't want to see that. So now I know I need 36 studs in there. We already had it as each. Again, my location is done. All of that one is complete. So now I've got studs and plates in there. I want that to show me how much sheathing. So my next one is, I come back here, I click on that, and I go to material, and I add a new material. Maybe I put in wall sheathing. I hit OK, and I move it over so that it's associating to my 2x6/8 exterior wall. And then I open it back up, open it to advanced. Now this one we're going to do a little different. So again, we still need to pull in a database. So description, you double click on it. You come over here to list type and you say list. I'm still looking for everything's going to be in my list. I'm not going to put it anywhere else. I want to pull in from my lumber database. I want to pull in from plywood, or if I have one that's specific plywood, it would be called that, but because the table's inside of that, you still need to open it and you still need to pull the table out. If you pick on one and it does not have the plus sign next to it, that means there is no information in it and you have nothing to choose from. So again, I'm going to do mine the way I did the last one, just like that. I'm going to tell it the same information. All of that's going to be the same. That's going to be the same. And I'm going to highlight that, copy it, highlight it down there, and paste. Now this is all set up to bring in plywood from my plywood database. So you guys use OSB. I generally would type in OSB to see what's available. That's what you use. So there it is. So we know now that we have it ready to go with OSB. This one's a little different because we're actually going to be pulling from the area of that linear foot, because remember it gave you a area. So we would highlight this. You come up here to this button right here, insert property. Oh no, I'm sorry. Take that back. You highlight over here. You make sure that you put in that your cursor is on this one next to it. And then you do insert property and you come up to where you've done your wall. So this is the assembly you've started with. And you're going to look for wall area because that's what you're going to pull from. So there's a couple of ways you could do this. You could do the wall height times you could bring in wall area, or you could bring in wall height, you could bring in number of wall sides, and you could bring in your linear foot, or you can just say, I want my wall area, because you already know it's one side of the area. So you hit OK on that, and as you see it, it brought in wall area. We already gave it 9 foot over the 8 foot so that we had a little extra for your rim board and everything. So at this point, if you wanted to add just a little bit more for anything extras like gable walls, stuff like that, where you might not have an exact, but you wanted it in there, you could do a times 1.1 and do all your parentheses and everything. At this point, we're just going to go ahead and do your divide it by 32, which is the 4x8 sheet. And as you can see, it tells you need 9.12. So again, we round up, and you don't always want to round up. There's times where you want to know exactly how much you're bringing in so that at the end you can round it up on your own rather than having the program round it up. Because if you've got 22 places where you're putting in siding and you're doing them all separate and you round each one up, you may end up with 1 or 2 Tyvek rolls extra instead of realizing, oh, I only really needed 2 rolls and I ordered 3 because I kept rounding everything up, and so it rounded up too much. So sometimes you want to look at that and see if it's really appropriate for you to do. So at this point, we've said we know we need 10 of the boards, 10 plywood sheets. We know that's each. So this is kind of important for later so that we know what that is. Again, you can put it a cost each if you want here. It'll calculate it. And if you want to do that now instead of in the database, you can do that here. Come down to location and just put in your brackets and your dots, your bracket, open bracket, dot, dot, close bracket. And when you give it a location in the main assembly, it will tell you automatically that's the same location. You may want, I think that we want that in there to show. And so there you go. So now it's telling you your plates, your studs, and your wall sheathing. Now, if you want to go with drywall, again, copy. You highlight it and copy, right click and copy. Highlight it, right click up here, paste as a sub item, open it up, advanced, rename it to drywall. Here under description, you're going to double click on that because you're going to pull from a different you're going to pull from a different database. So you find a database that's going to work for you. And I don't think I have a drywall one. So therefore, I'm going to have to find something that will work. I might have it here. So yeah, I think I have one here. So I would take all this, take it out. I'm going to put in my item number, my description, my cost each, my unit of measure. So as you can see here, I have it set up so that everything's coming in, cost each and unit of measure. I've told it I want to keep those because that was on the original. I still want description to come in. And up here, basically what you can do is you can highlight it and put it right here, Control V. I like to remove the one that I've already called out up here. So it's all together, and then you hit OK. Now you come up here, and I'm going to put in drywall and see if I have drywall in here. I'm not sure I have drywall in here. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So let's use the 4x8 sheet. There's my 4x8 sheet. It didn't give me the item number because I have this called differently. However, usually it would give you the correct item number. You have to make sure this matches what's on your database. It gave me a cost each, and it gave me all my information. Now, the nice part is this is a 4x8 sheet, so it's still 32. I'm not adding any. So I brought that in. It gave me my cost each and everything. Gave me my location. I can hit OK. And let me double check and see what is causing that. That's why when you get an error like that, you look down and you look over here and see if anything is telling it that there's an error. And so far, nothing is. So there you go. So now you have, anytime you bring this assembly in, well, so this assembly right now is saying for that linear foot, this is all the pieces that you're going to need to build that wall. Now, it doesn't include insulation, which you could take, again, using either one of these, copy it over for insulation, and you just choose your insulation and choose a square footage. And it will give you how many square feet. And you can just change your, instead of each, it'll be square foot. So now that you have this, you can close it up like that. So it's there. You just highlight it and copy. And you're going to put it in your templates. So we're going to make a new tab. You add right up here, new tab. I'm going to call this NG Builders Framing tab. And just call it framing. Tell it where you want to put it. You're going to probably keep it local right now until you figure out the rest. And you hit OK. So now there's nothing in here. You can just right click over here and paste, and you've put your first one in there. If you want to make folders in here to put these in, you can say put a new folder. Just make a new folder, and let's say framing, and you hit OK. So now you have framing. You take this and you drag and drop it in there. You make sure that whole thing's highlighted, and there it is. And now anytime you open up framing, you've got your assembly. Now, the other thing that you can do, so there's a couple of other areas you have. Segment's the exact same thing. The only difference between segment and linear is that segment, once you do one line, it stops. It doesn't connect. So that's great if you know that you're going to have certain lines that you have to all over the place. You can use that. It is not necessary. Everything that you do with segment, with linear, you do with segment. It's the exact same thing. So we'll just delete that. The other one that you're going to want is area. Area is easy. You click on it. You hit OK. You create an area. You can end it. So once you have 3 out of the 4, let's say you're doing a box, you have 3 out of the 4, you can right click it, hit stop, and there's your area. Now, again, we have area. We come over here to estimating, and we double click on it because we don't have it named or anything. So let's just say we wanted this to be named flooring. And so the only thing that we need to do there is we know flooring. We don't really need description because we're going to call that out with all the pieces. And what we're going to do is we're going to come down here to location, and we're going to highlight that because we do need to know where it's at. So once we have that, we've pretty much got it. So now when you bring it up, you'll see it's flooring. And maybe location, I want front, or no, there usually is what? Bedroom 1. Now, at this point, you just hit OK, and it's got all of its information in it. We have to do the same thing we started with this one. We come over here to a new part, and we do material. We can name it. Easiest way to do this is name it. So we're going to name it carpet. and we're going to hit OK. The reason we're going to hit OK is because we've got it named and we've got it under there. It's already highlighted. We just have to move it over to our actual flooring. Now we can do everything we want with it. So we told it what square footage we had in there. We told it we wanted it carpet. So now what we have to do is we have to go find our, let's say you wanted, let's say you have 3 different carpets in a database. That's where you do this. You double click on description. You come over to your list. You click on list. Underneath list, you click on that arrow and you find the one that you want to bring in. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that in again. I'm going to say that I want my item number, my description, my cost, and my unit. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. So if you bring one in that's and accidentally bring one in, you don't want it. You just go over there and you delete it. And you bring in your unit of measure and you can just delete that space. So now you have all of these. Usually what I'll do is right now is when I will click on all the, highlight those and just copy. I'll come down here, I'll click that, and I still want my description to be the thing that pulls everything. So that's why we went to description, is because description is what's going to pull everything. And then from here, we can just highlight and paste everything back in. I'll remove description so that that's the only thing this has in it. And then I'll hit OK. So now what's happening is when I come over here, I can search in here and find what it is I'm looking for. And you're going to find that your wheel will not work here. You're going to have to do this if you're going to keep looking for things. So I'm going to say, I don't know, I'm picking something. Not sure what yet. I'll bring in film. All right, so we have this. Now we're just going to pretend like this is carpeting. So we want to know how much quantity we have. Now the carpeting is going to be easy because we just tell it that we want the square footage. And because it's 105 per square foot, we're coming down here. That's what we want. We want to know how many square foot, and we want to know what the cost is. Now here's the cost each. The cost total is right down there. That's expensive carpet. Now, again, we want to know where that location is. And the best way to do that is by doing that. Because that means that if you change it in the main, so let's say that in the main, originally they called it bed 1, but they found out that there's 3 bed 1s on the plans because they were preliminary. Now you can just change it if it's the same to bed 2, bed 3, and it will automatically change it. So you don't have to go through it. So that's how you create it. So it brings that. But now let's say, and again, I didn't see one in there. I think it's because I'm telling it to look for an item number, and in here, we called it something different. So instead of the item ID or item number that they asked for, I called it a different thing. And I think that's where the access is coming from. Now, let's say that we want to put in, when we do the flooring in that room, we also want our base molding to come in there. If you've already got this one up, one of the easiest ways to do it would be to just copy your plates, copy that and take it. Actually, no, if you had linear footage, that would be the easiest. I'm sorry. No, we're going to have to do this one a little different. So we have to bring in a part, a material. We're going to call this base molding. And we're going to hit OK. It's already named. It's already highlighted. We want to bring it over because we want to put it under flooring. So now that base molding is going to look to this assembly. So double click on it again and go to advanced. Description, we're going to double click on that and pull in a new description. So we're going to go to list. We're going to go to wherever that database is. So I'm thinking I might have molding in here somewhere. And I might not. Let's just say I did. Finished lumber. Oh, there it is. So I'm going to pull in my item number and my description. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to say description and highlight the one that I want, copy it and paste it down here. So now all this is done. So remember, you're going to go to list. You're going to find the list. You're going to tell it the pieces that you want in the order you want them to show up. You're going to highlight this and copy it. You're going to click those. You're going to click on this and bring in the result column you want is description. And then down here, you're going to highlight and paste the parts from up here that you wanted in there, deleting anything that you don't want and taking out any spaces. Now we should be able to go here, and I'm going to say that I want 5/4 by 4 for my base. Now, we can't just tell it that we want a square footage because that's not going to work for it. So we have to go back. Remember, like we did in linear, we have to highlight over on this side right here, the blank next to the quantity. We click on insert property. We go back up to flooring, and we're looking for, let me see where it's called. There is a linear total right there. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for a linear total because that gives me the total all the way around, a perimeter count, basically. Now we can hit OK. Now we can divide it by 16 because that's what they are. They're 16-foot boards. But we want that. So now what we have is saying that we need 6 boards in there, in that place that we did. But it's actually saying 5.29. So this is where you decide now, maybe you're looking at it going, well, I've got 2 openings in this room. Most of my rooms are going to have an opening in areas where there's not going to be anything. So do we round up or round down? I always round up because I think it's easier that way. You may not want to. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to tell it our input units, unit of measurements. So this is how you know what to name your database is. Input units is what you want to have come in for unit of measurement, is actually input units, and it'll come in right there. Again, if you already have a cost on those, it'll come in right here. And then you want to make sure that you know what location you're putting that stuff in. Your base molding may not matter. If you're like me, base molding comes in one lump sum. Doesn't matter where it goes. Here's the amount you're given. But some places like to see it. So now you've got that. Now your flooring, when you do it, it tells you the carpet and it tells you the base molding. So that's how you do that one. And then if again, say you wanted this exact same thing for ceiling drywall and it had crown molding, you would just highlight it and copy it, paste it down here, rename it because it's the exact same square footage, rename carpet to be your drywall and go through that process again. And then instead of base molding, it would be crown molding. So you literally could just copy that and paste it and rename things because a lot of the information would be the same. Now, again, I like closing it so that I know that I'm getting the whole thing. You highlight it, you copy it, you come over here to templates, and you go to your tab, however many you have. And, now you might want to put in here flooring for a new folder. So you've created a new folder, you've named it. Now you highlight on it and you hit paste as a sub item. And inside of there, you have your flooring. This will allow you to do a number of things to be able to organize everything the way you want it. And you can and understand that you can take all these. Let's say you set it up one way and you decide that is not how we want it done. We want it done differently. Underneath it, you just create new folders and start moving things where you want them and then delete the old folders. It's just as simple as that. So now that you have these in here, say you come back over here and let's say you've opened up a new drawing. These are no good anymore. They're gone. You have them in your assemblies now. So we have it over here. And as you can see, it shows you your folders. And underneath your folders, if you hit the click, if you hit the plus sign, it shows you your assemblies. If you hit the plus sign again, it shows you what's in each assembly. Now, if you open everything up like that when you're in this part, it gets really convoluted and you have to do a lot of scrolling. So a lot of times I like keeping it like this, and I like making my descriptions as descriptive as possible so I know what's in there. So now I can come over here. I click that green. I tell it first floor. If I don't have folders already over there and I want to add a folder, I put it in here. So now what I've told with this, I've told it, I want you to make sure that everybody knows this is on my first floor as a location, but I want it in a specific folder called first floor walls, because that way I know where it's at. I know that it's going to be a 2x6x8. Now, these first ones, you've got all that information in there. You don't have to do anything else except hit OK and then run your walls. So let's just say this is all these are going to be all the same, which I know the garage would normally not be, but let's just say for this one, it is. Once you get to the end, you right click and hit stop. You come over here to estimating, and as you can see, it created first floor walls. And it gave you what footage you had there and how much of each of those there is. So that's how you create an assembly, and that's how you use them. Again, now let's say that you needed to do this entire thing. Here's your flooring. Say it all had one, for some weird reason, it had one floor. This is all one floor. You could just come in here. You tell it, I want this to be the first floor, and I want this to be first floor flooring. Hit OK. And just go in, create your and now under your estimating, you have both your floors, your walls for the floor, and your flooring, carpet, and base molding, which you can put anywhere you want, but right now it's going to show you a location. So let's say in T&G Builders, I wanted this to be different. So let's go ahead and take all the stuff in here that we don't want. Whoops. You can just take, if you have stuff in there that you don't want in there, you just delete it and it's gone. So at this point, I have this information in here, but I want certain things to show up here. That's where columns is. Now you'll see that columns has certain things already in it, but let's say these don't match. So I don't have a tool price total. Okay. And I don't have most of these, but I have a cost each, and I have a cost total, but I need a cost code. I click on this plus and it gives me a new column. I name it what's going to be on my database. Whoops. I guess I have caps locks on. I name it exactly how it's going to be on my database. It's a text. I give it that. Now, when I come off of here, as you'll be able to see up here, oh, I must have. Oh, and if you make a mistake like I just did, you can create it very easily, or you can fix it very easily by opening that back up and just clicking on it one time. Now, so now I have cost code right there. So if in here I had a cost code of that, it will show up over here. So I will know. So on, on your, it will give you what your cost codes are, and you can look and see, my plates and my studs are the same cost code. My wall sheathing's another cost code. My drywall's another cost code. So if you can get this part, if you can figure out how to create your assemblies the way you want them. That's the basic thing. Now, there's one more that you can do. You can do a count. Don't worry about this. This just gives you different types of counts. You can do a count. Let's just say you want a window count. Window. That's all I'm going to name it, just window. Not too worried about putting it in a folder at the moment because I just want a window. Here you can decide, what do I want it to look like? So when I pick a window, I want them all to maybe be a triangle. And I want them all to be red so I can see them quickly. Hit OK, click somewhere, stop. Now, go up to estimating. There's your window. What information do I want in that window? Well, my first information is I want a material. So again, it's just like the other ones. And I'm going to pull in product, window product. Let's just say window product. This allows me to pull in the exact window I'm going to use there. Again, and again, I just highlight, it's already highlighted. So I named it, I hit OK. It's highlighted. I click on this button to bring it over so that it's under that count. So now anything that I do with this, it's going to be under that count. Now this one's going to be a little different. I want it to pull in from here what my window is. So at this point, I'm going to come up here to this description. I want it to automatically go to my window when I bring in that assembly. So again, I brought in that description. It's the same, it's the exact same thing. All I do is, instead of down here, I come up to the main one, I highlight it. I hit advanced. I go back over to description and double click on this box. I tell it list. I find my list. Now, if I remember correctly, under here, I had windows. So I'll use that one. So you double click on it and it brought in all kinds of neat stuff. Maybe you have, I don't know, I'm just going to say that. My series, description. If I had multiple manufacturers, I might want manufacturer. And I might want my, well, actually, that's probably all I'd really want. That would be it, except for maybe I want my cost one for whatever, maybe that's my cost. And then I click on these. I come down here and I tell it I still want description to be my main thing. That's what I'm bringing in. So I just highlight all that. I copy it and I paste. Now I'm going to take out description because it's already in there. So now that's all I have. And I hit OK. So in my main thing, when I come over here, okay, it's not. Oh, it has to think for a minute. So I should be able to come in here, and I didn't. One of the things that I want to do is I want to show that. Okay, it's being really slow right now. Must be a very big database. Yep. So I've had a lot of things up, plus I have Zoom up, so it tends to pull more than what I normally would. So now I've told it this is what I wanted to show on the form, and my window that I want there. Let's just say that one. Okay. I don't know what it's doing exactly, because I normally don't use this one. Okay, so let's. Okay, so my plan, let's just shut this down for a moment and I'll bring it back up. And this is what happens sometimes when you have too many things running with Planswift. It does not like to play well with others. So if you can close other stuff out that's process heavy, I would do it. So now let's go back and open it back up. Over here in estimating. So as you can see, it's got all that. So when I brought this up, It didn't hold any of that. So I want to tell it, whoops, that's not the one I wanted. I want that. It didn't hold on to that. So let's try a different database. Just something, we're going to bring in something. So again, list, I did description, list, come down here and find the one that I want. I'm going to give it, I'm actually going to just give it some roofing. Just because, you know, it doesn't really matter what I use. So again, click on these, remember to highlight that and copy it. We want it to look for the description, and over here, we want that to be the same thing. We can hit OK there. So now what we've done is we've said that anytime you bring up the form, this line here is going to be there. And that way I can come over here, and I can look in my database and I can find what I'm going to put there. And every time, you know, so you'll pick something, one of your you're going to go ahead and pick the, oh, whoops, I did that under, did I do that under? No. Okay. So down here, why did this do that? It does not like that being there, and it does not like that database. So we are going to have to change that. I went to the wrong piece. So go to advanced. We still want it to show, but I don't want this particular one to show up. And it's being a, I think something had happened in the database when I brought it in originally. And since I never used it, I never worried about it. So that's why it's taking up so much. It's a bad database. That's why we're going to use something completely different. You may have something where you have the specific windows you use most of the time. And if that's the case, that's great. So we're going to pick a different one. We're going to go down here again to roofing, and we're going to do this. We're going to get rid of all this. And we're going to do this correctly. So again, highlight, Control C is copy if you didn't know that. Both of those, click on both of those, come down here, put in description. Control V is paste. So now this is all set up to be able to pull from that database. So, and you've got it so that it'll pull that right there. Now, what that means, again, so I come from here, I look up whatever I want, I pull it, pick it, and it shows you. Now I do windows in such a way where I have to tell them where those windows are. And so in that first one, when I pick it, I'm picking the window I want and the window it is, and I'm telling it where it is and how many are in that particular room. So I would do that. You may also do cost code, window cost codes. You know, you can make it so that when it picks that description, it puts that in there. Or actually what I would do is I probably wouldn't even do it here, because that's going to be a total of everything, every part that you put in. So instead, I would create it so that the only thing that you're going to do from this one is pick the window. That's the only thing that you want to pick automatically. So now that you've got that, you come down here to your window product, and all you have to do is, so we have it set to bring one in. We don't want that. This particular one, we're going to leave it so that this is not in there and this is not in there. What we're going to do is we're going to tell it, I want you to put in the description that came with the original assembly. So the open bracket, 2 dots, and close bracket. Down here, we're going to do the same thing. I want you to show me what the item number is for that. The quantity, I want to know how many times I've clicked for that one. And my cost each is going to be the same. So a lot of this is just going to be copying what's in that original one. Again, location, you're going to do the same, because I want to know where that particular one goes. Cost code, it's probably going to pull from that. So you actually could put that in there. The reason you can put it in down here is because, and you don't want it to show on the main one, will be because when it brings in a database, your database, I believe, has cost code in it. So it'll automatically know what that is, and it'll show it on there. It just won't allow you to see it on everything, but it'll show up on this one, or it should show up on this one. And once you have all that in, you just hit OK, and there's your, oh, we did forget one thing. And so we want to be able to tell it each, because we want to know how many of these windows we have. So picking the window for a window would be easy. Now, here's the fun part. So let's say now I do for every window, I add in window stool, side moldings, and head molding, because sometimes it can be different. If somebody wants the 1x style molding, they might put a 1x6 or a 5/4 by 6 on top, 3/4 inch overlay on each side, and then a 5/4 by 4 or a 1x4 on the sides, and then your normal window stool with a 1x4 underneath. But to be able to break that out, if I had to do that by hand, it'd be tedious. But if I wanted to do it per window, that would almost be super, super easy to do. And the way I do that is I come back up here to my window and I hit advance. So now what I'm telling it, what I want to tell it is I want to give it the information that I'm going to need for each one of these. So I know that, let's just say this was a 36 by, or a 3 foot by 5 foot window. I know it's 36 inches wide by 60 inches long, tall. And those numbers, because everything that you do, you're going to have to put in by inches. I know that the 1x4 is 3.5 inches wide. So I would add 7 inches to my width. Actually 8.5, because I also have to add the 3/4 on each side. So that's 1.5 inches. So once you know these numbers, you can add them in very quickly. But you have to tell it where you want it. So under estimating, you're gonna highlight estimating, and then up here you're gonna say I want to add a property, and it'll bring you back up to this right here. Now that property that I want to add, I'm gonna call it width, and it's a number, and it's going to go under my estimating tab right there. I really don't, if you need a hint, you can add in, you can say window width plus sides, so that you know. And you're going to want it to parse the formula. I'm not quite sure what that means, but if you click off of it, it will not work. My input units are going to be inches. So you'll type in inches. Actually, you know what? You don't really even need to do anything on that. You could just let it go. All of this will work. We don't want any decimal places, because your inches are going to be 0. That's the part that's really, really important. So all of this is going to stay the same. You're not going to add anything. You just want a width button in there. So that's going to be there. But now we want it to show on our formula. So remember this part right here, if it's checked, it's going to show on your formula. So if you look on your form, there's your location, there's your width. Now we want to go here. We want to go back up to that, and we want to do height. And again, all that's going to be the same. This is going to be a 0. We're not going to do anything else in here. If you want to put in your hint, you can just put in window height. Now I'll show you what that does once we come over here. So okay, and boom. So I want both of those shown in there. And so that means that when I come over here and I look over here, see how if I hover over it and I leave it there, it tells me window height. The nice part about that is that it will Sorry about that. The nice part about that is if somebody else were to have to look and they're going, well, what am I doing with width? Oh, window width plus sides. And, you know, you might be a little more descriptive. But this way, somebody could come up and look at what you're doing. Well, why am I putting this in here? Why am I putting that in there? So over here, you know, you might put in 36 plus 7 and 8.5 is 44.5. So you put that in. Or no, I'm sorry, height would still be 60 and width would be 44.5. And the reason for, and you'll find out the reason for those in a second. So now we hit OK. So as you notice, nothing changed. It's still one window. It's still, that's awesome. Now we're going to add more parts. So the first part we put in here is material. And I'm going to call this head casing. Makes it easy. That way I know this is the top casing that I want. I hit OK. Again, come over to this so that I move it over and it associates to window so that anything I put in here, it's going to associate to the count or whatever other information I put in there. So you open it up, you bring it in there and you say, okay, my head casing. Now I'm going to double click on that and I'm going to say, maybe all your moldings in one place. So you click list, you come down to your lumber or wherever it is, your finished lumber, you put in, you set it in there the way you want it. Highlighting what you want down here and copying it. And make sure you say that's the description. And then you just go ahead and paste it. So now what that does is says, when I come here, I'm looking for 5/4 by 6. That's all it is. You just know that that's what it is. Down here under quantity, I know that I'm going to come up with each. Now here's an area where you may not want to round up. Because if you have multiple ones that are 0.75 and you round up, every time you do 4 of those, it's adding an inch. And let's say you are window heavy in a house, you may end up with 3 or 4 sticks more than what you need for head casing. And they're going, these guys don't know how to count, you know, or whatever. It just helps minimize excess or waste. So this is one area where I probably would not actually do that. Now you're going to want to tell it where to look for. So I want to go up here. Whoops, wrong one. Sorry about that. So click here, come up to your form where it says insert property. Looks like a little form up there. You're going to go to the window and this is where you're going to put in, I think it might be at the bottom. Yeah. I want my width. Okay. So you put in, I want width. Now here's the point. Here's the thing. So width is just going to give you, it's 44. I got to figure out, yeah, 44 inches. And I want to divide that by 16 foot. That means that you got to figure out how many inches 16 foot is. I think that I missed a spot. I have to go look and see what I did wrong here. So give me 1 second and let me look. So I'm going to go back over here to my templates and where I did this once. And sometimes I didn't do these. Don't do these a lot. So every once in a while I have to go and remember how to do something. And now I have to find my windows and doors. Here's my windows. So as you can see, I have this with flashing, with the window, with the stool, with the head casing, with the side casing. So if I were to open this, now I added nails, which you probably won't need. But if I came up here, mine, I did not put it on a database because it could be anything. And you may want to do that. So my quantity was, okay, I see what my quantity is. Okay. So I need to find out what I did. So as you can see, length and width. Length. What did I do? Number, size. Okay, I do have scaled units in there. And those should be inches. Okay. Where's that? Can't be the one I'm using. Ah, here we go. Casing length. Where's my header height? Header length. Okay. So that's how I did it. I did header length. All right. Input units, feet. Okay. So basically I want it to come out as feet. And so I say input units as feet because that's what you're using to input it into other things. So that's where I went wrong with mine. So I'm going to come back over here to estimating my head casing. I am going to come down to, where did I put that? Okay, well then we're going to make a new one. Oh, I didn't put it in that one. Put it in this one. Sorry about that. So width. I actually want this to be feet. And it does have to be capital. And I actually do want decimal places in this one because it could round it up or down. So that done. Oh, I know that's not correct. I just wanted to mine in inches. And the units it came out in was feet. Yeah, okay, so that's a little bit better. 44.5 inches, 3.71 feet. So again, I'm going to come in here and do so that we have it. And that's 5 feet. Okay, now I should be able to go down here to head casing. If I don't want anything in there, that's fine. If I do, that's fine. I can do these per thing. So my quantity is going to be, I want it to look at my count, and I want it to look at my width. So as you can see, it's bringing in the width, 3.71 feet. Now, how do I know that that's going to be per each? I can divide it by 16, and I know that I need 0.23 feet or 0.23 of a stick. Now, I get 4 of them in there. That's a stick. If I were to have rounded that up, that would have given me 4 sticks. So this is why I'm kind of, you probably don't want to round up on this one. Again, location is going to be up to you if you need it, but it's good to have in there. The nice part about this one is now all you have to do is copy it and paste it as a sub item and rename it to window stool. So let's say your window stool is actually a piece of 5/4 by 4 on top. So maybe you're going to do this as 2 pieces, window stool top. All this is still going to be the same. It just changes what it is. And then underneath, maybe you just copy that and paste it, rename it to bottom. Maybe you want the 5/4 by 6 on the bottom. Again, all that's going to remain the same. But what you've just done is you've basically said, every time I put a window in there, I'm going to choose the product that I'm going to put in for that in the location. And this is how much casing, this is how much window stool. And now we can actually take this head casing, copy it, and paste as a sub item. And we're going to do some changes on this one. And this one here, we're going to call this side casing. We're going to say where we want it to look at is going to be different. So we just delete all of that. We come back over here. We know we want to look at that again. The last time we looked at width, this time we want to look at height. So we want the height. Problem is we have it twice. So it's height times 2. Put it in a parentheses so that you've got that. So now you've got, so far the way it is you've got 10 feet. Remember, they're 5 feet on each side. So now all you have to do is divide it by 16, and you've got the amount of side casing that goes on each one. And it's as simple as that. So that said, with each window, you can put in your window product, your head casing, your window stool, and your side casing all in one shot. Most of the time, exterior stuff is done separate, at least for me. My headers are done separate because I can run those a little bit differently, a little quicker. And the only other thing that you might want to put in there is if you want to know how much flashing to get. That one's an actual easy one. You can highlight it. Actually, you can take your head casing, copy it again as a sub item, and we're going to change this one a little bit. You're going to do advanced, and this one here, let's just say it doesn't have anything. All you have to do is come over here to simple list, and you're going to call this automatically window flashing. It's a material, you want to keep it that, you don't need that. Now all we do here, get rid of everything in there. It's the easiest way to do it is to get rid of the last formula, unless all you're doing is changing what it's divided by. But this, we're going to do something different. We want to pull in 2 things off of here. We want to pull in our width, and then we want to multiply that times 2. And so we want that in. And now we want to add that to, and I like starting it. It's easier for me. And we want to put in back here again. We want to put in the height and times 2, and then end close. And here you can leave it. I mean, that's 17.42. And here I would put it as feet, because that's how many feet are in it. So to go around it is 17.42 feet. And that gives you a little bit of waste, because remember the width and the height, we added a little to that when we first originally put it in there. But that shouldn't be a big deal. That actually gives you the little bit of extra you may need. And so that one again is all done. Now, your one window tool, whenever you pull that particular one in, will tell you the size and everything of the window that you put into your database, if you want to do it that way, or you can just call them out. It will tell you all the head casings that you need for all the windows. You'll just have to add them up. The window stools, however you're going to do it, and the side casings. And I forgot to rename this as window flashing, and how much window flashing you may need to do this. So that's all I have for now. That should get you going on your assemblies. That should allow you to start your assemblies and get them started. And if you have any questions, you can give me a call, 443-786-5043. Email me. And I'm sure that I'll be seeing you, so I can help as much as I need to. And that's it. Have a great day.